I am Fer. I am a researcher that works with bats in Mexico. And basically, I mostly do ecology stuff. So, what do they eat? Different species. We have more than 140 species of bats here in Mexico. So, what they eat, what different species use to live, where they move, where they migrate during the winter or during the summer, and that sort of question is what I specialize in. So the Mexican free-tailed bat, Tataria brasiliensis, is a species of insectivorous bat, and it is very, very common here in Mexico City, and it's actually very common across its range in many areas. No, it goes from the U.S. all the way down to Argentina and Chile, and it is a fascinating bat because despite it being common, it lives in extreme ways in a sense. It is the it holds the record for the fastest self propelled flight in the animal kingdom, which is around 160 kilometers per hour. They actually measured this from a plane, from a small from a small plane, because they were following them with telemetry. And it also forms these huge colonies of millions upon millions of bats during the summer in the southeastern part of the US and northern Mexico. So this originally was part of a collaboration between the laboratory, Rodrigo Medellin's laboratory, the Batman of Mexico, where I work in, and Mexico City Zoos. We were trying to establish a colony of these bats in some. They have like these huge artificial rocks in the zoo that are part of the exhibits and part of where the animals live, and they are hollow. And they thought, well, we have a lot of unused space within these rocks. Why wouldn't we use it? So we caught a few of these bats in a roost that is, I think it's like 50 kilometers away, in the southern part of Mexico City, actually outside the city. We were trying to see if those bats that we have set free, in the zoo, would go back to the roost in southern Mexico City that same day. So we used a fluorescent powder. It's non-toxic. It's basically plastic-based. So if they eat it, they just poop it out. And it responds to UV light. So the idea is, if you cover these bats in that fluorescent powder where we set them free, they will eventually go back to the other roost, and we will find either shiny bats or pellets that is the droppings of the bats that glow under UV light. So we were trying to prove that. I like this story because we as scientists are sometimes a bit laser focused on what we're looking for, and we sometimes miss some other things though. So that time, for whatever reason, I invited a friend of mine who is actually a computer scientist. So completely different field, nothing to do with bats at all. And I invited him because we were going in the field. It was like after the pandemic, so we wanted to go out and maybe be in the forest for a bit with friends. I don't know. So he was with us, and while we were looking for the shiny specks of the UV powder, we were like, well, we had caught some bats in the net outside this roost, and we were seeing them. We were checking them with the UV light, and we couldn't find much. But he, because he wasn't so laser focused, I guess, on the question we were trying to answer, he suddenly said, "Hey guys, is that normal? Do they usually glow like that?" And well, when he actually showed us what he meant, it was the feet of these bats that all all bats of this group of insectivorous bats, the molluscid bats, they most of them have these bristles. It's like a comb of very thick hairs, very thick, transparent or white hairs that run along the first and the last digit of their feet. The communication hypothesis we have is that perhaps these bats in the environments they are roosting in, some of them might have enough UV light for these bristles to be visible to them within the roost. Of course, if the bat is roosting, I don't know, 100 meters underground in a cave that has a very narrow entrance where it's completely dark, of course, that's not going to be the kind of environment where they are going to have enough UV light for the bristles to be visible. No. The other hypothesis we have about these is that they might serve some function in communication outside the roosts. There is some limited evidence that these bats might swarm in a way, so they might fly together during migration, where you have caves that are completely empty one day, and a couple nights later you have hundreds of thousands or millions of bats showing up. So they might be actually flying together in a way outside of the roosts, and these visual cues might have a function during those flights together. Of course, there is a very real possibility that it is simply a coincidence in a way. So we also, as ecologists, we sometimes make the mistake of like seeking the function in every single thing we find. I have been immensely lucky to grow in a house where plants and animals and all other living things have always been like an integral part of our family life. Both my parents are veterinarians, and my dad is actually a wildlife vet. So he's worked his whole life in zoos and in the field, doing sampling from monkeys to wildcats to opossums in a nature reserve we have here in Mexico City.